Hey, we're still dancing.
No.
I love my intro. If you say why is you call it your intro, because that used to be my intro on the next chapter. Mark picked out the graphic, and it was just totally me. It was great. I still love it. Yep.
We're a mesh of, I think, about 14 different shows we've done.
Exactly. Hey,
Only
why be
visiting.
simple? Yeah, right. Why be super simple? We'll make it our own. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're meshing them. Yeah. And I like it. And the intro kind of depicts all the different things that we've done together. So I like it. So what is this, like our 4,937 show?
I think 4,938.
Oh, yeah. I'm always behind on about everything.
Yeah.
About everything.
I agree. Well, I like your shirt, Mark.
Yeah, I like your shirt, Sandy.
Thank you.
If my name wasn't so stinking big, you'd probably
I'm not tall enough to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. There we go. Yeah, there we go.
What does this shirt mean?
I don't know. Some chick gave it to me a couple of years ago, and she just walked up to me and said, "Here, you want this shirt?" And I went,
my!
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like lime green. You know,
I do love lime green.
Well, it's your design from Sakota a couple of years ago, and here we are. So,
well, do you know, though, because Sukkot a couple of years ago was the lambnetwork.tv and Life of Worship Sukkot, and do you know I give you credit for all the stuff I do?
Okay.
I may do all the working, a lot of the working, or most of it, or all of it for Sukkot, but I always give you credit for it. Look what Mark did. Look what Mark did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for the good stuff and the bad stuff. Whatever doesn't happen or doesn't work. No, whatever. If something doesn't work, then yeah, I took all my ideas from Mark.
That's Mark. That's Mark's fault. But speaking of that, I want to make sure, guys, you need to get your registration in and save your spot to the lambnetwork.tv and Life of Worship Sukkot. That's coming up September 29th through October 6th. You don't want to miss it. Hey, you're going to have great speakers. You're going to have John and myself and Mark, but there are others in the works too. And it's going to be a surprise, and you'll miss out. You'll miss out if you're not there. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And where can they find how to get to the information about the Sukkot and where to sign up for it?
Well,
I mean, they might already be right there on the lambnetwork.tv website. They might already be there. And if you look just below, if you don't see it, click through the arrows and you'll see a banner, and you can click on the banner. But then if you go directly to your website, they can find out.
Yeah, I used to have my website on the banners here. I was looking, it's not there anymore. It's www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And you can click there, and you can sign up right there online to connect you, or you can download a packet and sign up there. Now, there's something different this year. We have dropped the price significantly because instead of us cooking the evening meal together and us purchasing the food and all that, everybody's going to make their own food, and then we'll sort of bring it all together. Not that you have to share. I'm not saying that, but we can eat and have fun together and laugh, and so we're not all separated. And
can I reveal a little something that happened when? So when I told my wife, Adina, Donna, whatever anybody wants to call her, when I told her about we're going to feel like she lowered the price and we're all going to cook our own meals. And her immediate response was, well, I tried to tell Sandy that years ago that she ought to just do that anyway. I've been trying to tell her that, to do that. It's like,
well, maybe so. But you know what? Here's why I hadn't previously done it. because then people say, well, I wasn't there for the meeting in the evening because we were still cleaning up our food, or we cooked our food late, and et cetera, et cetera. And we're not going to do that. You got to go to the evening and function, be together with us. But bring the food you ate and let's eat our meal together. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be shared, but we can eat together. And besides, that pavilion's really nice. Hey guys, we have a nice pavilion we'd end under with metal picnic tables and the worship stuff set up right there. So right after we eat, we can start to have some fun.
I should have had that video from a couple of years ago where John and James and I did the Bob Dylan skit, you know, and then they could kind of see our little pavilion.
Because we have lots of skits and dramas and and talent shows, and we're still gonna have a chili cook-off, guys. We're still gonna have a chili cook-off, so you need to remember that. And we've got games and great classes and
there's no drama. There's no drama at our Saco, Sandy.
Yeah, there's not that. No, there's not that kind of
no drama at all. It's all easy going. Everybody has a great time and fun. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just
no, you're right. It is. It's a great time and it's a great place. And last I checked, they have gotten about 40 feet of water back into the lake. So we're going to have a mikveh this year.
Oh, I see.
Last year, it dried up.
Yeah.
4 years ago, it was filled up to the max, or 3 or 4, whatever it was. And it was like really full. This year, the lake is going to be more full, and we can mikveh.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, when we were there 2 years ago, it was really low.
It got lower last year.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Even lower. So
lower than low.
Yeah, they've gotten 40 feet of water last I checked, and it's still that. Now we are in the dry spell right now in the Panhandle. It's like it's been 107, 112 all of those kind of temps this week. So it's been super hot here, but
it's going to be so nice at the end of September, you know, for 8 days, and we're just going to enjoy everything. I booked my Greyhound bus trip.
I don't think anybody knows what that means.
Well, I live in North Carolina, and Saco's in the Panhandle of Texas. That's like almost a couple of 1,000 miles away there, and so I got to get out there, and so I'm taking a bus. I'm taking a bus there and taking a bus back. Hey, I'm telling you,
evangelize the bus.
Any way to get there? What?
Are you going to evangelize on the bus?
Me?
Yes.
Me? Oh, I don't know. I'll find a way to get the conversation around to it somewhere.
Talk for a second. I just have to back myself out just for a second. So talk for.
Okay. Well, I wasn't there last year at the Sacote we're talking about, but we were there the 2 years before that, and Sandy and I used to do Sacote in Oklahoma for years and years and years with about 1,200 people every year, and that's always fun. It's always good. I mean, small ones, big ones. Hey, you know, all God's children got a Sacote to go to, right? So,
well, you know what? There's something powerful when we gather together, and it's a spirit-filled Sukkot. And Blazing asked if the Amtrak goes there. It actually, Mark is heading to a different place than driving with his wife, but it does go into Amarillo, and we could always have somebody pick you up, probably myself or my husband.
By the way, I checked on Amtrak to come out there, and Amtrak only has specific routes in different parts of the country. For instance, if you're looking at the whole United States, you may find routes here, you may find routes there, and you may find routes there. they almost like go up and down, north and south, more than across. And I couldn't get anything that connected.
So what train are you riding? So there's
I'm taking a bus. I'm taking a Greyhound
a bus. I was going to say we do have, yeah. So I think you'd have to do a bus, Blazing.
Yeah, and buses are even cheaper. And I'm gonna tell you what, the cost of what it cost me to do a round trip to go out there is a fraction of what it would cost to drive, to rent a car, all the gas, the staying at hotels, everything. It's literally, Sandy, it's about a fourth of the cost of what it would take any other transportation you want to take.
I think it's so wise. I think what you're doing, we can't do the bus.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm looking forward to it.
Bob will be there. Bob and Cece.
Bob Hall.
We can't miss Bob ever.
I love Bob. I always thought that Bob was a halfway decent human being.
Bob is an amazing human being.
Well, I don't consider myself to be a halfway decent human being.
You are an awesome human being, amazing too.
Oh, yeah, here we go. That's right. All right, so go. Yeah,
I only speak the truth.
What?
I only speak the truth.
Yeah, you're one of those. I know, Sandy, you're one of those, and that's why I enjoy doing shows with you, is because we're such a contrast. I exaggerate points.
I think you know what I just did? I just did last week's tour portion on exaggeration and stuff. I'm just giving you a hard time. So
this is Sandy. She keeps things level. Everything is level. You can no, you got to go back level. Yeah, see, so this Mark is like, whee!
So is John. That's why Mark and John together is explosive.
Have you heard about all the different rides that are messing up in amusement parks this year?
No, tell me.
Oh my gosh. What was it, like 2 months ago or something? A roller coaster here in North Carolina. Somebody noticed that, the stanchion, they have stanchions that hold the tracks. So when the cars go across, the stanchions have to hold it. Well, right there at the top, there's like a crack at the top where the stanchion goes up, and then you have the fittings and everything, and where they do. You could see that when the roller coaster ride went over that part up here shifted about an inch. And the video they took, you can see light through where the crack is, where this thing. Every time the roller coaster went by it, the stanchion this and this separated about an inch every time it went by. And then there was a report yesterday of a boy that got thrown off one of those where you're on this thing and they strap you into the seats and everything. And it was a young boy, probably too young to be on there, and he was on the end, and this thing, it's on a wheel that goes like this, and it makes you all woozy and everything, and the kid on the end got thrown off, and he's in critical condition in the hospital.
That's terrible.
Head to the amusement parks, people. It's so much fun.
Yes, but see, I was actually discussing possibly, if my niece's daughter comes that we just went to see in Oklahoma, that we might be going to Wonderland, which is an amusement park that Six Flags took over a couple years ago. But okay, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I just liked it being locally owned before. It's a nice park, but it does have rides. But I'm not a roller coaster person.
Gosh, I was. Matter of fact, I got stuck on a roller coaster. Had to ride it 3 times in a row one time because they couldn't get the latch up.
Man! Usually, if you're a roller coaster person, to ride it 3 times in a row free, you're like, woo.
Usually, and so after the first time they couldn't get it up, you want to go again? Sure, let's go again. After the second time, it's like, Yeah, I'm not sure I want to go the third time, but okay. They said, well, we got to go get a tool. Just ride it again. So after the third time, they get me out of the seat right now. I don't care. And I used to love roller coasters.
So what's your favorite ride?
My favorite ride is probably roller coasters. Yeah.
I used to love like the pirate ship, the
Oh yeah, Disneyland or what.
and I like there's a swing that they used to have at some. I like that kind of thing too. And but I told you the story when Jonathan was he was probably 14, maybe 12. He was going to go to the amusement park with his dad, or I was there. No, I was there too. I just wasn't on the ride. And for one reason or another, and I made him eat 2 sloppy joes before he went to Wonderland Park here in Amarillo. That was a mistake because he was just like, I don't want to, Mom. I said, finish them. You can't go unless you eat it all.
I love it.
Well, he got on the pirate ship with his dad. And you don't want to know what happened.
I think we can.
To this day, he always say, if I'm going anywhere, I'm not eating sloppy joes. Not doing it. Not doing it. So yeah, he still gives me a hard time. All these years later, 20 years later. Yep.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Well, everybody, this is our random show. Sandi and I, every once in a while, we do random shows where we kind of have a halfway plan, and so far we've done nothing on the list.
I'm gonna give you a question here in a minute, but guys, that we do have some great teaching that's coming around, so don't think that it's random. So there's no we've planned some good stuff too. So I mean, this is good. Remember, we talked about laughter the last time we were on air, and that we're supposed to laugh and have fun, and laughter's good medicine.
Yeah.
Here's my question. What's the most unusual room service request that you think is out there from hotels?
Oh, no. That could go into 40 different directions, Sandi, because you got some real different kinds of people that are in rooms. I never ordered anything from a room because it always costs too much. But I want to say, and this is terrible. We're all adults here, right? I would almost say a hooker. I mean, what is the most weirdest thing? I mean, hey, I watch too many movies and TV shows. So.
Well, I got a list. This list says Hotels.com's inaugural room service report reveals some of the most unusual requests from guests are shared by hotel staff members. The booking platform conducted a survey of 473 hotels in 10 countries, and these are the oddest requests. Diet water.
Is what?
Diet water.
Diet water.
Melted ice cream.
And these things have been ordered by more than one person?
Maybe.
Okay.
Boiled bottled water.
Boiled bottled water. I love it.
A rice bowl for a dog.
A rice bowl for a dog?
For a dog.
Okay.
Bison.
Bison? Not bison meat, but a bison.
Well, it says bison, and when you say bison, I think of the animal, the one that was hunted on the plains that people.
Well, that's why I say bison meat. I can see, and actually, I'm pretty sure bison meat is kosher.
Bison meat is kosher, and it's very good for you. It's very healthy.
So it might be unusual, but
yours was not on there, Mark.
The hooker was not on there. You know why?
But you want to know something?
Not an unusual request, Sandi.
That's what I was about to say. That's probably pretty common for some places. Maybe Las Vegas. I don't know.
Oh, I think it's anywhere in the world. I think is pretty. But to order it from room service, now that's odd.
That's true.
I can't see being on the other end of room service. And can you send the hooker up? What?
All righty then.
Look around and look at his coworkers. And never mind. Sorry, I'm making light here. This is so. Yeah, those are some unusual requests. Yeah.
Very, very.
I would assume though that there's got to be some even crazier ones out there. But
yeah, but remember there's got to be crazier ones. Maybe they just did the tame ones on the site I was on. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's good. I like it. Well, you had mentioned before, what we had talked about last week or last time we were on, and a couple of the things. And one of the things we did our whole last third of the last show was AI, and how I don't even know how to express it. It's taking over the world. It's becoming, commonplace. I think is the biggest issue. I think it's interesting how the world, when they want something that's controversial to be accepted, they make it commonplace or make light of it, that type of thing, so that people just start willy-nilly accepting everything. And then they slowly bring it in. Well, Sandi, I want to show you the newest commercial that I've come here. Let me put this full screen, and I'm going to show you this commercial. Now, everybody realize we're not advertising Virgin Cruise Lines, okay? This is Virgin Cruise Lines' new ad. So let's see, we'll do a share screen here. Let me do this, and let me do this, and this. Okay. Here we go. So, Sandi, this is the new Virgin Cruise Lines new ad.
Hi, it's me. Chief's
It's good, right?
Gen AI is supposed to be inviting people to Virgin Voyages, not doing whatever that was. Just give me that. As I was saying,
Why not celebrate on
an award-winning voyage
with Michelin-starred chef-curated menus?
world-class destinations, award-winning.
Boring. I'll hop in there. I'll hop right in that suit.
So simple.
I can't watch this. Give it to me. There's no kids here. That's all you need to know.
No kids!
Oh, can I live there?
Gen AI. Invite your crew to voyage. Create your custom invite at virginvoyages.com.
It's not just a yacht, it's a super yacht.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, wait, hold on. Come on, I don't want. Come on. Anyway, sorry.
That is so wild.
Anyway, isn't it though?
But
I mean, you're talking. There is no way you can know whether or not something's real or not. If you're watching an ad with Jennifer Lopez, is it Jennifer Lopez?
Who knows? But here's the thing. Then no one should be able to be convicted by video anymore, or should we ever use video proof for somebody? I did the same thing this week. There's this show called Deep. I can't remember the name of it, but it's about, I wanted to see it because it was about technology used that they'll make you think that it's somebody, your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, doing something they're not doing, and you can't tell it apart. So I had John watch it. We watched it and we were just shocked. There is no way you know if it's real or not. And the stuff they were doing, it would cause great pain to their significant other because it looked, all of it was real and all of it was fake. None of it ever happened. And it just went right along with what you said. It's just technology.
And there's no turning back. There's absolutely no turning back. That commercial we just watched was making super light of it. It was making people laugh at AI and have, accept it. It's just, oh, isn't this fun? Oh my gosh, it's like unreal. Well, we've been watching movies with CGI, computer graphic images, for years and years and years. I watched one the other day that didn't have any, and it was like you could tell that if they had made this one, which I think was probably 15 to 20 years ago with no CGI, had they made it today, there'd have been all kinds of CGI in there, different things that they could add. But it was back when, and it now makes me think of that. When I watch a movie or whatever, it's like, I know the CGI is here and here and here, but now it's like when they start bringing AI into it, who knows? But anyway,
Yeah, it's wild.
I just thought I'd give that as a follow up, and anyway. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Let's see, where is I've got another video here. You want to go with the Parkinson's one, or do we want to go on with some other stuff here?
I think we have time. I mean, it's totally up to you. It doesn't matter. We can use that anytime or today. It doesn't matter.
Well, we're kind of being lighthearted here, but anyway, I don't care. Let's do this. The deal is when I'm playing videos, were you able to watch the whole video a while ago?
The very first part of it was slow and dragging, so we missed the very first part. Yeah.
Yeah, and because the bandwidth for some reason in my internet anymore, along with my computer, it kind of messes those things up. So let's hold off on this, and maybe we'll do it another time. But being lighthearted in videos and everything, I ran into a video this past week of you know who Bruce Springsteen is.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I ran into a video where he's up on the stage. It's in the middle of a huge concert, and it starts off with him talking with somebody in the audience, and he says, "So you know this song?" And he says, "Oh, can you play this song?" And you can hear yes. And so Bruce says, "Well, come on up." And so this kid can't be more than probably 16 years old, comes up on the stage. They give him one of the guitarists, hand him his guitar, and he's standing there. Here's Bruce Springsteen, and here's the kid, and here's the microphone in between them. And the kid not Bruce, the kid starts playing the song, and Bruce just kind of surprised as can be. The kid plays the song and starts singing the song just like Bruce Springsteen.
Wow, that's cool.
They went the whole song, 6 minutes of the song. I mean, lead guitar solos and everything. And I mean, it was phenomenal, but it's every kid's dream, especially little boys, like me, to see concerts, say, man, someday I'm going to be up there and I'm going to do this and everything. But this kid is like, I'm sitting there in tears for the whole thing. And anyway, you can, let me see what, you can look it up. It says Bruce Springsteen brings young fan up on stage, and it's on YouTube. So if you're interested, you want to see it, I'm telling you, it was just awesome. And to see Bruce Springsteen's face watching this kid do his song was just.
I bet you that kid's already under contract or something now.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Okay, well I just can't stand it. I'm going to. Okay, here it is. I've got to play it. We'll do it real quick. I do it. And up and here we go, and this one, and share audio, and I hope this works because maybe if we do it over here, it would work better. So add to stream. Here it goes, and this is it.
Do you know the song? You do? You know the song? You do?
He actually has a pick in his pocket. Check it out. Look at Bruce's face. Anyway. I know it's a look on Bruce Springsteen's face when the kid actually did it, you know. And I don't know if you've heard, there are multiple stories of Bruce Springsteen. Like he would, there's a story of him and two other guys going across America on motorcycles, and they'll stop in random bars on the side of the road, bring their guitars in, walk in, and just do a set.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah,
he's aged a little bit though.
What's that?
He's aged a little bit.
Do you think? It's a good thing we haven't.
I have. So.
All right, we're having fun today. I hope people didn't get offended by that, but you know,
no.
I enjoy this stuff so much. I really do.
We know you, Mark.
Good. I'm glad you do. And if you don't, you know, this is me. All right. So a couple of different things. We're at the top of the hour. Do you want to let's switch over to our second, third, and you bring up your topic, and we're going to head on in. Here we go.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the streets of gold. We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet.
All right, today's topic, temptation. Oh, right. You've never faced temptation, right? You've never had that issue, that problem. Maybe you never have it now. Well, I think we all deal with temptation, or maybe testing, whichever way we want to call it, because we all have weaknesses. In fact, this has been around. Temptation has been around since Mr. and Mrs. Adams. Mr. and Mrs. Adam. Maybe it's your temper, or you're eating too much, or you're spending too much time doing this or that, or we could start listing a host of things that we can fall into temptation, not just the biggies. You may think, well, you may immediately come to mind, temptation is some big thing. I'm not even going to start listing those, but temptation comes in all sizes. It does. We all have certain areas of our lives that we need help in to get into control. The good news is, Yah is our help. He is the one that's going to help us. help us get our life together. If we're willing to be molded in like him, then guess what? We're not going to fall and fail in this area. Now, Generation Z, Gen Z, as they call them, has been asking. I saw this article that they were like, is there such thing, is temptation a sin? What is temptation? Well, they're asking these questions, and yet we realize temptation or testing, however we want to call it, has been around forever. It's what we do that causes the problem. But we do know there's people out there, when we think that everybody knows what we know, when we're talking about life and what the word says, we are mistaken, because people out there don't know necessarily what you and I know. And we always need to be mindful and aware of that and be led by the Spirit. Temptation is a universal experience. It affects people of all ages, all walks of life, great men and women, people that are unknown, whatever you want to look at, temptation affects. Yeshua faced temptation himself, Matthew 4. With Elijah, Moses, and the big distinction lies, how do we respond? Some, like King David, he succumbed to temptation. He succumbed to the temptation of sexual immorality with Bathsheba, and he gave into that allure. You can look at that in 2 Samuel 11. And there are those like Joseph, when approached by Potiphar's wife, he chose to resist the temptation and ultimately flee from it. Even if there was a moment of hesitation, he chose to resist. The decision to resist or to yield to temptation, it rests in who? It rests in you. It rests in me. When that test comes along, it's really important for us to understand that, does this necessarily originate from Yah? Well, it may not originate, but Yah may allow things to happen in our lives to test where we are in our faith, right? So James 1:13 says, let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by Yah, for Yah cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. So why does it come our way? Well, let's consider this analogy. Teachers administer what? Tests. They administer quizzes to evaluate where their students are. How far have they come? Have they learned what they're supposed to have learned? Have they made any progress? Similarly, well, Yah allows tests in our lives, and it gauges where we are spiritually. Have we grown any, or do we need to learn that lesson again? Or do we need to go around that mountain again until we get it? That's stuff we have to go through. And I've done it myself. Keep going around the same place because I haven't got that lesson down yet. But just as students study their textbooks or excel in their exam, we must immerse ourselves in the word and use the word as our weapon. Use the word as to what we cling to. Knowing Yah's word, we gain that ability to overcome temptation. The word in 1 Corinthians 10:13 and 1 John 4:4 assures us that trials are going to come. Yep, trials and testing are going to come, but we should not give in to them. For we have that overcomer, Yeshua HaMashiach, residing within us. We are overcomers. So why do we have to deal with it? Well, it strengthens your faith, for one. If we never stand against temptation, how do we know we've ever grown? How do we know that when the test hits us, that we'll actually stand strong? How will we know even where we stand with our own spiritual growth? Facing temptations, it brings out the best or the worst. One of those two things. Sometimes Yah allows us to be tested because he's preparing us for what? Promotion. I've always told you that when you walk into a period of testing, like that 40 days of Yeshua, you're going to walk out of that with a promotion, and you're going to walk out in power and authority because you faced a test. That's what happens when we're tested. And if we want to be promoted, expect a test to come your way. Expect temptation possibly to come your way. There are many forms of temptation. But the bottom line is we can overcome them all. You might be enticed to steal or murder or commit adultery or even all those other things I've already said. Respond incorrectly, take offense. We can just go on and on. But most often we're tempted by things like impatience. Oh, that's a big one. Jealousy, greed. We can go on and on, but do we pass those tests? Matthew 4:1 says, when Yeshua was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Okay, by whom? By the enemy. So we have that there. Now, I want us to look at that word because every modern translation renders that Greek word paradzo as tempt. But we're going to look at it a little bit more closely because when you examine the story in Aramaic rather than Greek, you're going to be surprised at some of the things that are revealed on what was actually done with Yeshua. Why are we looking at this? Because it's an example for us. So when we read the word parazo, which is P-E-I-R-A-Z-O, it's also used to mean test or try, as in the Septuagint. In the Septuagint, it's used for the Hebrew word nesah, N-E-S-A-H, which also means test or try or tempt. The Aramaic Bible uses the Aramaic word nesah, and that has a little different spin on it because it's been discovered that the old Galilean dialect of Aramaic that Yeshua and his disciples spoke, that nesah is used when a man is purchasing an ox. Yeah, purchasing an ox, nesah. Well, what are you supposed to do with that ox? Well, he's trying it out. If you're nesah for the ox, you're trying it out. Is this good? Is it going to work? Is it going to do the job? How well is it going to perform? In other words, he will take a test drive basically with that ox. Oh, and the enemy was doing the same with Yeshua. He said, "Hey, man, you're human. We know you are, but you're still divine, right? Why not just take a test drive of your divinity, or for a nesah or a test drive? Why not just do it? Let's see if you're still divine, even though you're all human. You are, right? So let's just take it for a test drive." Sort of reminds you of going into a car lot and taking a car for a test drive, right? You're going to have a big sales pitch. They're going to push you. You're saying, "Well, I need a car." "Oh, you need a car? Well, let's take you," and they'll lead you over to the most expensive one, or one that seems to be even out of your budget, one that seems like a dream, to tempt you to purchase something maybe that you shouldn't be purchasing, or more than you thought you were going to purchase. Salesmanship. Well, that's what the enemy's doing. So he's selling, hey, Yeshua, let's just take this for a test drive. So when you look at this Aramaic word nesah, the word is linguistically identical to the Hebrew word nesah. So we're dealing with N-E-S-A or N-A-S-A-H. And it means to test. Really, that's what it boils down to. In English, we have just one word, right? Test. It's used to determine if something or someone can qualify to reach a certain standard of usefulness, or has achieved this knowledge, etc., etc. The word's used to see where your limits are. In Aramaic as well as Hebrew, you have nesah and bakan. Both of these words mean to test, qualification, to test your limit and test your abilities. The enemy was not tempting Yeshua. He was testing him. He was giving Yeshua the same chance that he gives us all when we are being tested. When we are being tested, the opportunity, what do we get to do? We have the opportunity to exercise free will. We can choose between two different ways. We can go the way of the word, or we can go by our flesh. That's something that's going to satisfy the flesh. And usually we'll convince ourselves that that's the right way to go, because we seek to satisfy the physical desires. Yeshua chooses to feast on the words of Yah instead of to feast on the words of man. He's been in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights. And actually, when you've been fasting that long, that hunger desire is sort of pushed down. You're not near as hungry as you think you are the longer you fast. But he still chooses to feast on Yah's word. He fully understands our struggle when we have things that we need in our lives, in our bodies, etc., etc. Yeshua's been there. He's experienced it all. But the enemy wants to use the free will of Yeshua to change things for Yeshua and for our future. People can't, they maybe have been saying at the time, "Well, I don't believe he's the Son of God," or who is this guy? And it would be so easy for Yeshua to say, "I'll show you who I am. I am Yeshua HaMashiach. I am the Messiah." And he could prove it to everyone with nothing at this point in time with Hasatan's temptation. But did he? No, he didn't. When he said, "Jump off the tower of the temple in front of the high priest and let all the witnesses see, and the angels will come rescue you, and there'll be no doubt in anybody's mind who you are." But Yeshua's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Even though the enemy was appealing to the soul, which wanted to be recognized and accepted. We all have a desire to want to be accepted and recognized. To say you don't, that's not true. And to say that Yeshua did not, that's not true either, because he still was 100% man and 100% Yah. He was both, right? So he dealt with the same flesh issues. He just dealt with them correctly. Yeshua said, you shall not Nasa test the limits of Yahweh, because for one thing, he has no limits. So why bother? Well, bottom line is, you don't test Yah. Finally, the enemy wants to do something else. He wants to appeal to both the soul and the body of Yeshua by offering bypass. Hey, you do not have to go through the cross, the stake. You don't have to go through the rejection, to be spat on, to bleed, to be whipped so that you're not even recognizable as a human, to be despised, to hang on a cross neck. You don't have to do all that. All you need to do is worship me, and all that can go by the wayside. Well, worship in Aramaic is sagad, and it means to give recognition, honor, and attention to someone. See, we remember what Hasatan used to have the attention. He was what? He wanted his old job back, that worship leader that was full, his whole body full of that music. But that's what he still wants. He wants recognition. He wants to be the guy. He wants to be elevated and lifted up. The enemy was the light bearer of Yahweh, and when he fell, where did that duty go to? It goes to you and me. We are to be the light bearers. We are to bring forth light in darkness. The enemy's not going to do it. The enemy is the enemy, right? Yeshua all he had to do was give in to the enemy and give him his old job back, and he could have avoided everything. But Yeshua wouldn't do that, because he knew his future, he knew our future, and he knew what his job was. He wasn't going to give in to all of that. Now, I want us to look at something else in this passage, and that's the word if. If. It actually means an. And doesn't necessarily mean if in a conditional sense. It's more like, even if this is true, or since this is the case, since this is true. That's sort of what we're looking at here when this conversation was happening. So the enemy was not saying, if you are the Son of God, change these rocks into bread. But he was saying, since you are the Son of God, change these stones into bread. Sort of like, since you need this, since you need a new car, why not use this one? Since you need this, why not have this? Again, temptation, testing. So Hasatan was like, hey, you've been 40 days without eating. That's pretty much what the human body can take. So why not just go ahead, since you're the Son of God, change these stones into bread, change these rocks into bread. Well, did he? Of course not. Maybe that is what the enemy wanted to accomplish, to show Yeshua that he was fully human, that he would give in to his selfish motives. I don't know. But Yeshua didn't, because he knows our battle, the battles we face. He understands that. And he's shown us how to win. We win that war of testing through the word. We laugh when testing comes, because we know he's the answer. We can look up lots of scripture and understand that there's a war going on for you, for me, and the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But with that war for our soul, the word says the desires of the flesh are opposed to the Holy Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are opposed to the flesh, godless human nature. For these are antagonistic to each other, and so that you are not free, but are prevented from doing what you desire to do. Temptation is not a once in a while thing. It's something you deal with every day. How do you face it? You face it victoriously. You face it through Yeshua. You face it with the word. So something good often happens. And what immediately after you have a victory, what seems to happen in your life? You seem to be tested, or face a test, or tempted, if you want to use that word, but you're tested oftentimes. And are you going to keep that victory? Or are you going to let it slide? Are you serious? The enemy's like, are you serious about what you just said? Are you serious about what you believe? Because I'm going to show you that you're not. Are we going to pass that test? Ephesians tells us that we've got to be led by the Spirit, because when we're full of the Spirit, we can drive out that spirit, those other things that would try to attach themselves. We got to get a grip on reality. We've got to remember who Yah is and who he is in our life, and establish parameters. hey, how far will we go? Where are we going to draw the line? Are we going to put ourselves in a position to be tempted by those everyday things? Or are we immediately going to use the words and cast down vain imaginations? What are we going to do? Temptation, we all face it. We're all going to experience it. And so how we pass the test, how we go through the test, and what we say is important. And that is the word that needs to come forth out of our mouth and stand on. Yeshua's been through it too. All right, Mark.
How many different topics have you taught on, Sandy, in your lifetime? You know, at services or here online, you know, I mean, you've only done a couple of thousand.
I've been preaching since 1990.
Uh-huh. So would you say 100 different topics?
At least.
At least.
I mean, you can always find nuances and
yeah,
bring out something else. Like I could have gone a whole bunch of different routes, but I just wanted to do an overview. So
yeah. When we first remember, I used to do the show Compass of Cram.
Yep.
And I still do. I have the list of all the different topics that I just, I randomly write them down. And when we started the new show, by the way, shameless plug, tomorrow, same time as right now, the Let Us Reason Together Friday edition with David Weiss and Larry Segari and I sent them that list, and there was 117 topics on that list. Anyway, temptation. It just don't we live a life of testing? I mean, shouldn't we just be used to it and fall into it? And I mean, in James 1, it says, regard it all as joy, my brothers, when you face various kinds of temptations. For you know that the testing of your trust produces perseverance. I mean, shouldn't it just be a given, that we live every day as a test, and we, after a while, you just know where your limitations are, where your boundaries are, where, I'm 68, you're like 23. And, by the time you get close to my age, you'll realize that, it's just a daily thing. You already know who you are. You already know what you can go through. When I got out of the Navy, on my way out, I was like, surveying my years in the Navy and what I had done and everything. And I only came up with one conclusion of all my time in the Navy. And that is that they put me through things I would have never put myself through in my life. And I could see that I could get up at 3:00 in the morning, get up, get dressed, go up to the bridge, go outside in freezing cold weather at 3:00 in the morning in the middle of the ocean and watch the surface for other ships, for lights, and things like that. That's what you did. That's part of being in the Navy. Everybody has to go through those things. But I found that I wouldn't have normally done anything like that at 3:00 in the morning. But because they make you do it, you find out that you can do it. And it's really not all that bad. That's the thing. If I find out about my temptations and, whether or not I fall into it or not, and then the different kinds of various tests, is that once I come out of these tests, I mean, inevitably feel better about it, because I know now that I can go through those things. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's the real key to me, that James 1 verse 2, regard it as all as joy when you face various kinds of temptations and tests. It's just that the whole thing, you read the whole discourse there, and it's about tests and things like that. And so that's really more my take on it than anything else. We choose our life. And I think our life is based on those temptations and what we did with those temptations and the tests that we have to go through. I think that we are a product of those things because our confidence. Last week on Let Us Reason Together, we talked about what's the difference between the word trust, faith, and I can't remember now, but the different things, and the whole end of it is confidence. And all those things leads to your confidence in who you are, because there needs to be a result. If we're tempted and we choose which side of that temptation we're going to go with, or if we're tested or we test ourselves or whatever we go through, there needs to be a result. You need to come out of those temptations. You need to come out of those tests. So what do you end up with? And with me, if I have to maintain a thought pattern of, I want to know, where did it come out at? Where did I come out at? And then, it's not so much of forcing myself to recognize all the things that I went through and that time. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just a life of walking in those things and learning and progressing in life because of those things. If we're not tested every day, then, I don't know. I don't know. I think I would reevaluate my life if I wasn't being constantly.
I've always heard that if you don't find yourself, if there's not struggle or testing that's happening, then you need to evaluate your walk.
Sure.
Because if you are walking righteously, if you are doing everything you can, doing what God's called you to do, then you're going to be tested, because the enemy, for one, doesn't like it. If you're fulfilling the purposes God has for you, he doesn't like it. And so he's going to fight you on it because he wants you to turn away. So,
yep, with you. Very good. Thanks. Yeah. All those different topics you come up with every single time, they are all good. and they test us. Your different topics test us. It makes us think about our own life.
Well, and that's what this section was for. If you ever wonder, why aren't we just like digging into this portion of the Torah or whatever? I wanted this part of the show to really be about what we're dealing with in our lives today.
Yeah.
Practical stuff that we're dealing with right now. And not that that's not there, but focusing in on things and emotions and just junk that we face in our daily lives.
So, once again, all your topics really kind of reveal a test or a temptation to understand that more, I think. So, anyway, very good. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Sandy. And let's go on in. I want to go ahead and do this. This is fun to do.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the streets of gold. We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet.
I just want to remind everybody that Sandy and I are giving away free t-shirts here in another couple of months. It's about 2 months away, but you have to come to the Panhandle of Texas to get your shirt.
Mark.
What?
The shirts are $25 each.
Oh, okay. Well, that should just be a part of the registration, and I know not everybody wants it. So,
yeah, not everybody wants a shirt.
We're giving away free T-shirts, but you have to come to the Panhandle of Texas to get them, and you have to let Sandy know that you're coming.
Sukkot, Victory, Feast of Tabernacles. Be there, be squares, right?
Uh-huh. And these aren't the T-shirts that we're talking about.
No, pre-warned, Bob. Of course not. You know that. You got your new T-shirt last year and the year before. So
we should have Bob come on and tell everybody how Sukkot goes.
Oh, Blazing with Snow. Are you offering to pay for everybody's T-shirt, Mark? You better say no, because I usually write $1,000 check, so you better say no. So
no.
All right.
Not paying for it. It's just free. It's part of the whole thing. Once you pay for the whole thing, so that's free. Isn't that the definition of free? Sandy is.
All I know is I did not include the cost of the T-shirt with the thing. So.
All right. Okay. So, Sandy, in all your teachings, and this was kind of my lead in from the last section that you did there. In all your teachings, have you ever talked about mandrakes?
I have.
I figured you had. What do you remember about mandrakes?
I think I would have to go look at my notes. That's what I think.
Well, I just want to remind people, the Lamb Network does 97 shows a week on, broadcasting. And one of the shows that we have is one of the old Lamb radio shows called Council Fire with the Riverwinds. Do you remember Joseph
Yes.
Laura Lynn Riverwind? They're amazing teachers. And this week I caught their show, and if you want to learn more about mandrakes and things like that, which is one of the most fascinating teachings I've ever heard, you can go on lambnetwork.tv and look up Council Fire, and it'll take you to their page and watch this week's show. It's real interesting that I didn't know that it's a hallucinogen. Do you remember that in your studies on that?
I did not.
It is actually used in very commonly used in occults as a sex drug because it's a hallucinogen. And I started trying to think back to, what was it, Joseph and not Joseph, but oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Who was it that wasn't it Leah that
Leah wanted the mandrakes. Yep.
Wanted the mandrakes, that's right. And so if you go back and read on that and understand the things that the Riverwinds were teaching, it just explodes that whole discourse in there. So I just kind of wanted to see if you remembered anything about all of that, or anyway, so we're doing a random show. Some of these things are just random topics that I run into. But anyway, most weeks we do a segment on this show called Newscasting Ancient Times. What do we got going?
I'm sorry. This has to go with the
show going on.
This is hilarious. Blazing said, well, praise the Lord and pass the Viagra. I mean, the mandrakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
Exactly. I think it's interesting of how something that we read so randomly in the Bible about stuff like this is actually used worldwide in other instances. I just find those things fascinating anyway. So
without the stigma, oftentimes that.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas she wanted a certain purpose for them. Anyway. So moving on. Once again, we normally do a segment called Newscasting Ancient Times, and for the next section, I started doing research on it, and the next section that I'm going to do is about Yeshua casting the spirits of a man into pigs. And I think that whole, have you ever noticed in those, let me bring this up here. There are 3 accounts of this in the, there's one in Matthew, one in Mark, and one in Luke. And it's interesting. If you look at the 3, the shortest one is like in Matthew. And let me just read this real quick. It says, when Yeshua arrived at the other side of the lake, the Gadarenes territory, there came out of the burial caves 2 men controlled by demons, so violent that no one dared to travel on that road. But in Mark and Luke's version, there's only 1 man. But the difference is, in Matthew's version, Yeshua doesn't ask the name of these men, but in the other 2, he does ask the name, and the name is Legion. I'm wondering if Legion, because there's many, and he's talking about the spirits, of course, but I'm wondering if the discrepancy, let's just say in Matthew, is that there wasn't 2 men, but it was considered a legion, so it was written that way.
Well, I was doing some research on that, and there are some different
Good.
There are some different reasonings on that. Some say that the reason that you see 2 and 2 or 1 is that one was a really notable guy. One was more of have been more important to the community at once or not, and the other guy wasn't as much so he addressed one more than the other. I have no idea, but there's never a discrepancy in the word. It's our understanding of it. And that's what, if anybody's listening, you say, well, see, that proves the word. No, it doesn't. It's our understanding of what we're reading. And if I had more time, I probably would give a lot more answers, but I didn't look at that till this morning. I was like, oh, okay. What can I pull together?
No, it's okay. Really, if you'll do and what do they call it when you put words don't come to me, where you have different accounts, like the 4 Gospels, but you read different, the same thing in different, and they're worded different because they're from different perspectives, and they're the same thing. No, I don't believe they happened at different times. If you read these 3 accounts, they're literally almost word for word in a lot of what they're talking about. I think the difference is that in Mark and Luke, he asks the name, and the name is Legion, which is many. Okay. And I think the difference is that when Matthew wrote it out, Matthew didn't put that part in there, and that his perception of it was there was more than 1 person. And that's just, to me, just a possibility. Based on, I've told the story many times of very early on in my walk, when I was so vigilant about studying things out, that me and another guy studied the 2 genealogies and thought we found a discrepancy, even took it to our pastor as we found a discrepancy. The 2 different genealogies are different. Well, no, they're taken from 2 different perspectives. They're Mary and Joseph's different genealogies, and you just have to figure those things out. But I think it's real interesting, this discourse here, but the fact that they were cast into pigs, the spirits that were in the man was, or I think it was just 1 man, and I think there was a legion, there was many spirits, and it's interesting because it doesn't. The Gadarenes' territory was from what I remember, still in Jewish territory. No,
Actually, the
because
Gadarenes,
because it's early on, and he had not ventured out of Israel as of yet.
Well, hold on. When he crossed the Sea of Galilee to the Gadarenes, it was a region that was inhabited by Hellenistic Jews and Gentiles, is what was generally known in Gadara. And if you think of what had just previously happened before then, it's the centurion. And what was the centurion? He was a Gentile.
Right, Roman, yeah.
And of course Peter's mother, and then they just crossed the sea. They just crossed the Galilee, and that storm came up. And I think what's really interesting too is anytime we do deliverance, because we do have a deliverance ministry, there are things that those things really react and try to prevent anything from bringing forth deliverance. And I think it's really interesting that the storm occurred right before they end up in this place, because that's exactly what happens when somebody's getting ready for full deliverance. And there's a big difference between getting spot checked, getting rid of this thing, and getting completely free, because everyone that's walking around if you have this, you are a believer in Yeshua, you are not possessed, but you can be oppressed. There's a big difference. But I don't know anybody that has less than 60 that they're dealing with at any one time, unless they're just had some deliverance and are free. But then you live life and things happen. And anyway, so on the little bit of research I did, it did actually say that that area was outside. I have some specifics.
I think it's you look at the Sea of Galilee, and it's in the northeastern part, which is like Syria today. Because I remember when I went to Israel and we went to the north part of the Sea of Galilee, we actually marched around a military site of Syria up there. I mean, it's right on the edge, and I think that's what, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought.
Well, I don't. This is just what I had written.
It got herds of pigs too. So.
Yeah. Well, it said it was Hellenized, and it was in the cities of Decapolis, which is in Galilee, and it's eastern Samaria, located primarily along the edge of the Sea of Galilee of the Jordan River.
Right.
And it's in the kingdom of Jordan today and the Golan Heights. According to the Piney Elder, the cities of Decapolis were Kanatha, Gerasa, Gadara, Hippos, Dion, Pella, Raphana, Skipethopolis, and Damascus. So
yeah, that's on the northeastern part. Anyway, so yeah, it probably was, but it's interesting because early on, anyway, I guess we'd have to get into a deeper study of that. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to distract. I'm sorry. Please forgive.
What? I'm covering some just real general things here. For one thing, I'm getting ready to write the script for Newscasting Ancient Times for the next one, and this is all going to be a part of it. So another thing I thought was real interesting is that it says that what was it? There was like 2,000 pigs in one of the, I should have underlined this, but in one of the, here we go. They came out and entered the pigs, the herd numbering around 2,000 rushed down the hillside into the lake. 2,000 pigs. I mean, come on, you don't have herds of cattle that big. That's massive. And I can't imagine there being a herd in Israel.
And that's one of the things that leans sort of towards it also being a Gentile area, because it was a massive amount of pigs. That was a big part of the income of that area. So that's one of the arguments. You know, we're not supposed to have that in his as Yah's people. But that 2,000 pigs, I mean, think of the livelihood of that. And then it gives you this idea, because Yeshua said, hey, well, no, not Yeshua said, the people were like, see what happened to these guys? They're free. And that's what was stressed. That's what people talked about. Yet people, others were like, hey, you just messed with our income. So they had the choice, freedom or light or money, things or freedom, or Yeshua coming and bringing forth healing in every area, including deliverance. So
yeah, interesting.
But I know there's significance to that 2,000, and I know I would love to research it, and all of it. There's more. I would need to spend several days really digging.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I like I say, I didn't really, because I wasn't going to get that much into it. But I thought that it was an interesting. I mean, first of all, the legion of evil spirits within a person, would pick. They're not going to go into chickens. It's like, you're going to go into the most unkosher thing. If it's going to be a living, breathing entity, then you're going to want to go into something that is evil also. Not evil, but because pigs have their purpose.
Y'all made,
and there are pigs in Israel, for a purpose.
They clean. They
clean. Exactly.
They get up the junk that, Yeah.
So they have their purpose, but when it comes to Yeshua, I gotta get off here. When it comes to Yeshua, obviously the whole thing working together is going to be something that exemplifies the God's way of life, which is also what you eat and how it nourishes your body and that type of thing. So, as far as this is concerned, though, and it comes down to an old teaching called Choose Life by Ralph Messer that I heard years ago, is one of the most amazing teachings. And it all has to do with influence and what you accept of that influence. For instance, like what you were just saying, a believer can't be possessed, but a believer can be influenced and allow that influence. And you want to talk about what we just talked about temptation and tests, and it follows right through with that exact same thing. Is that like this man that had legions? That means he allowed all this to happen. Now, to me, I would almost say, I don't know, is the guy Jewish or not Jewish? If he lived in this area, I mean, it doesn't say one way or the other, but he allowed Yeshua to influence himself enough to allow these to leave. Okay, Yeshua can cast out all he wants to, but if we don't allow those things to leave, then do they leave? I mean, can you cast a demon out of a person that doesn't allow that demon to leave?
Here's the big thing, and I get sometimes in the war room, I have a problem with this as a pastor, as somebody who has worked with people. You don't cast out anything unless that person's ready, because the house is cleaned up and it'd come back worse than it was.
Exactly, 7 times.
And so when somebody says, hey, let's pray, they need deliverance right now on this, that person needs to be willing, and that person needs to have that relationship, because otherwise you can do worse damage than you ever did. We have got to realize that evil stuff, and I actually taught on this, didn't I, on our show, on one of our shows before.
It's one of those topics.
Yeah, we went on for several weeks, and I was teaching on this. I don't remember what show it was, but nonetheless, those things are real and they do affect us. And when we sin, it opens the door for that stuff to come mess with us. You may think, well, if my family has alcoholism, or this and this is in my family, or my family's just angry. You know what? That's demonic.
Mm-hmm.
It's demonic. There's a curse that's involved too, but it's demonic. When we read and do and act on certain things, not just sin, we open the door for the demonic stuff. Now, you can see it react. I can talk to somebody, and all of a sudden they get upset, and you see that eye switch, and you know that all of a sudden you're not talking to that person. You're talking to that demon that just react. And they're believers, guys. They're believers. Just because you believe in Yeshua, or you believe in Jesus, and you're walking your best with them, doesn't mean you can't have issues you've got to deal with. We all do. And then when you do get deliverance, life happens and things get in the way, and you got to have like checkups on it, because things happen again. But this stuff is real. And for this guy to be so violent, whether it's this guy, these guys, whichever way it is, those guys were possessed. Those guys. But I will tell you this. I've had even some young adults, rage and anger are something that I've never met anyone that doesn't deal with them. They have that, and until it's removed. But there was this young man, and I was leading the young adults, and I said something, and all of a sudden, and he's a good kid, he loves Jesus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But all of a sudden something happened, and he went after me, and I stopped it, and I, in the name of Yeshua, and said, bound that thing from acting upon me. And he, all of a sudden, he came to his senses. Does that mean he didn't believe in Yeshua? No. But that thing we needed to deal with that thing right there and then afterwards. So it's real. Now, I don't know anybody that has Legion wise. And I'm not saying that specific one, but that is, I've never dealt with somebody possessed. Never dealt with that.
Well, we question, I've heard it questioned for years and years. Why do people keep coming back up to be prayed for the same thing over and over and over? Because they're not releasing it. You can sit there and pray for somebody over and over and 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But if they're not ready to release it, you're just wasting your stinking time. Just use your time on somebody that can release it. To me, that's exactly what's going on. Looking at this particular instance, though, you're seeing several things in this one thing here. You were talking, we're talking about they need to accept that. Did Yeshua know this concept? Did you think Yeshua would just walk right up and cast a legion of demons out of somebody if they were not ready to be released of that?
Yeshua knows what he's doing, and Yeshua is Yahweh.
The thing is, though, to me, is that they were cast into a living entity that died, that basically killed themselves. So you're assuming those spirits also died with the living entity. You assume that. Doesn't mean that that's what happened. And the thing is that Yeshua was living more in the spiritual world than any one of us will ever live, ever be aware of. He was aware of the spiritual world that he's working with. And so
his authority is Yah's authority. And not that, okay, we walk in that too, but he is Yahweh. He was Yeshua. And he is saying, go. I'm sorry. They knew who he was.
Yeah.
And they're not going to cross him. The enemy, though, oftentimes say, oh, you think you can do this? You think we can read the story in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament and say, oh, you think you can bring about deliverance? Are you prayed up? Have you fasted? Are you, but you're right. I mean, Yeshua did that without all the stuff. We don't have the rest of the story. We don't have it. So we don't know.
We have what we need.
We have what we need. And
all
I can say is by experience, you don't bring forth deliverance. Now, there's something about if a certain spirit's acting up in the middle of the congregation or something, yes, you can deal with that. But complete deliverance like Legion, that all of them gone at once, you don't do that unless that person's willing and wants it and is ready to maintain it. How do you maintain it? You relationship with Yeshua.
Well, you've had people, because we've talked about this, you've had people, speakers at your congregation that, did the laying on of hands and people fell over, and that you questioned whether or not this was right in your own congregation. I know you have, because we've talked about it. Not going to mention names, but, I've always had that check in my spirit too. It's the way they handle what they're doing. Are they just there for volume, or are they there for integrity and making sure it works?
Exactly. And I want to qualify that real quick because I know we're out of time. I do believe on the laying of hands, and I do see people fall out in the spirit.
Right.
I do believe in that. But when it's just boom, 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 and or sometimes and there's no word, there's nothing. I question that sometimes. I will say this, Jonathan. I've seen Jonathan pray for somebody. Jonathan didn't touch it. He just reached his hand out. The guy flew 10 feet behind him. Jonathan never touched him. And he went out in the spirit. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You're not going to get hurt when you go out that way. When the Ruach HaKodesh is taking you there. I got to be quiet because we're at time. So I'm going to let you.
I know. Well, always good. This one I think could go more. We may bring it up again.
I know it's really good, and I could talk for another 30 minutes. But
well, we'll do a newscasting ancient times with this on it next time, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good.
Anyway, Sandi, I just love doing shows with you all the time, every time, no matter what. And Sandi also does Walking in Spirit and Truth on Tuesday evenings and Monday Reason sometimes and all that. And I do.
I've been doing Reason lately because I've got to be outside in the morning right now.
Sorry you missed that this morning, but they'll be okay. Anyway, also I do a show tomorrow morning, same time, same channel, everything. And so come and join us then. Also, if you missed the show and want to see it again or tell somebody about it, go to the Lamb Network's on demand section and you'll find it. Also submit your prayers and praise reports to us, and we'll pray over them. Until next week, God bless you all. Thanks for coming in. And, we rarely do this, but we're going to do it today.
Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other.
It's almost like amen. I think it means whatever you want it to mean, but mostly it's just like be excellent to each other.
I think it just means to be excellent to each other, really.
I miss doing that. See you next week, Sandi.
Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.